Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here are your hosts, Joe Kuzma and Brian E. Roach.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another special edition, a late-night edition of the Steel City Underground podcast covering the 2018 NFL Draft like, only we can. We being myself, Joe Kuzma, full name Joseph D. Kuzma, because I'm going to do it just like Brian E. Roach does, the D to the E. What's going on, B?
There you go. That's what's going on.
I got a question for you right out the gate. Did you enjoy the Steelers draft picks more today or Avengers Infinity War?
Oh, God, Avengers Infinity War. Not even close. It's not even the same conversation.
See, you can't ask me this question because no spoilers. Spoiler-free show here. Even though Brian was spoiling me on Twitter because my phone and my alerts, since I get his alerts and we retweet each other, being the kind people we are here as part of the team SCU, he just sending the damn tweets like 2-3 minutes. And they even said, you could tell the guys are like really annoyed, like Rich Eisen and them. They called that out yesterday, you know what I mean? But at least this ended a little earlier tonight, even going through 2 rounds. We saw some action. The Steelers traded. We said they could do that. Maybe use something and just move up jump a couple picks, and they did that. You did not like that. We'll get to that. We saw a bunch of I mentioned like Nick Chubb and the Browns like snapped them, boom, right away in this draft. But I'm not going to talk too much about everyone else's picks. They'll come up naturally in our conversation of who else was available and everything and whatnot. So I want to jump back to Terrell Edmunds real quick because it's just a little self-promotion of the website and the article that I wrote earlier today. We went to, what is that, mock draftable, is that it, draftable, mock draftable? Jeez, I can't remember the name of the website. I think I credit in the article. Go to it. I talk about Terrell Edmunds' role with the Steelers. I'll talk a little bit more about that maybe next week when we cover the overall draft. But in short, we kind of hammered some of it yesterday, dimebacker, moneybacker, but look at his measurables and then look at his actual physical size and what he did at the combine, et cetera, versus just about everyone that was out there. I think the only guy that really outmeasured him, and I'm talking not just safeties we thought the Steelers were interested in. Like I think Justin Reed was one I put on there. I think maybe it was Jesse Bates. I can't remember. We had a handful of people, and then Leighton Vander Esch, Rashawn Evans, even Roquan Smith. He looks like he looks more athletic than Roquan Smith. He looks like he's the same size. This guy. He might not even be the safety. This might be the Shazier pick. This might be the Shazier replacement, depending on how they scheme this defense. I say this scheme. I say that pick. I say Burnett being there. I say Davis was set up maybe 2 years ago. I was talking with my cousin earlier today about this too, because I had to defend. Everybody's like, "Oh, got to get D-line, got to stop the run." And it's like they're 5 deep on the D-line. They don't need D-line. They take a late flyer on someone, great. They get a UDFA, good, fine. But to draft somebody high, that's ridiculous. We were saying yesterday, 2 down linemen, outside linebackers dropping in coverage. This is all to stop Rob Gronkowski. Or I should just say tight ends because they play Kelsey almost every year now too, and a few other guys. They had trouble with that. That's what Terrell Edmunds is here for, and he looks like he's going to be a heck of a lot better maybe if he or maybe even Burnett or Davis. Davis has struggled a little bit with Gronk, but everybody does. But I like the prospect better than Vince Williams roaming around out there or LJ Ford or Tyler Matakevich.
Yeah, the thing that comes through to me in this particular after day 2 is that I think that they have a plan that is non-traditional. All right, I think they're looking at their defense and they're going to do something a little different. People thought about it last year with Jabril Peppers because realistically, Terrell Edmunds is a bigger, more athletic Jabril Peppers. And that's the kind of guy
that actually played a defined role and wasn't just utility, whatever, let him run around on the field.
Right, exactly. And so I'm starting to wonder if they're going to do something a little more unique with with their backs, with the back end of that defense. I think the front, the line, the guys who are going to play linebacker, outside linebacker, that's all well defined and they're solid there. The question is what else are they going to do? And it'll be interesting to see how they play this out. I agree with you. I think that one option here is that Terrell Edmunds actually is the guy that they insert into that kind of money backer, nickel linebacker, dime linebacker, whatever it is, kind of player. And maybe they're going to play more sub-package defense in that way. If not, well, I hope Bostic is a lot better than I think he is. Let me put it that way.
We discussed this, as you call the back rooms already, and we said there was Terrell's brother Tremaine, which those two guys are just freak athletes. You put those two side by, and I did. I put them side by side in the article too, and there was no way Tremaine. I mean, it was a pipe dream if he's there. That would have been like they say run to the podium. Even though they still seem to write on the cards, I think they just do that for the photo op. I mean, they write write on it as like secret, as like the skulls or the Illuminati or something. Like it just seems, and then they can't read the handwriting, which was what honor. We thought it was somebody else that was taken instead of Harold Landry, Honor Landry. So it was kind of funny. You know what? That gives us a nice pass when the guys that are on like national network TV. I think it was like close to 12 million people watched yesterday, day one of the draft. And when you get somebody that's in front of this type of network or TV audience, and they don't say the name right, I don't feel so bad anymore. I just feel it's like one thing that it's like I try to get the pronunciation right as much as possible. There isn't, and there's no excuse for it in the NFL. If people aren't aware of this, we were provided media guides early in the week before a game. Usually you'll get some type of media guide. Now the Steelers one, I mean, it doesn't change very much, so you should get the Steelers guys right if you're covering the Steelers, right? But let's say they're playing the Jaguars or something. You'll get the media guide either from the Steelers or you could get the one from the opponent, depending on who the home team is. And they produce like a flip chart. It's like almost like kind of like the plaything that the coaches have. And on each side you have like a numerical roster in alphabetical order, the starting lineup, and then there's a pronunciation key at the bottom. So if you screw it up because you can't read well, he's not on the team anymore, so that's not going to matter. But yeah, no. It's like I kind of went off the reservation here. Anyways, yes, Edmunds. So Tremaine off the board. LVE went off the board, and I was like, oh geez. And I wasn't much a fan of Evans to begin with, but after those three, it was just it falls off a cliff. And really, who else are they going to take in these positions? Where now the round 2 guy here is interesting. But, I mean, we could still keep talking about inside linebacker because I told you I had a hot take that I still want to revisit. Actually, two. Now, they have 2 fifth-round picks and now just 1 7th. That's all they got left, 3 picks. No 6th-rounder unless there's some type of trades or something. I hope they don't trade Landry Goat. We'll be talking about that in a second. So, you know what? My wife laughed at that, too. She actually got the joke. It's amazing. She doesn't even know what's going on. She's not paying attention to the draft. I'm like, Baker Mayfield. Who's that? Okay. He's about the same size as you, same height. But anyway, it's just like, unless they make a trade here or something. But traditionally, a lot of these linebackers fall into the later rounds. It's just not the sexy pick. As we saw today, offensive linemen. A lot of it's the day 2 thing, unless you're the super stud or something. A lot of receivers on day 2, 2nd and 3rd rounds. You see this consistently. Just look at the drafts year after year. The linebackers, like I said, start, 6th round, really. 6th round, there's going to be guys there. There's going to be 7th round guys there. That's where Vince Williams was, 6th round. Anthony Chickillo was 6th round. Tyler Matakevich, 7th round. LJ Ford, who's still on the roster, undrafted entirely. I'm not sure where Bostic went anywhere. But it's just like, I think people are going to complain regardless. If you take a linebacker in the 1st round, Jarvis Jones, bust. Bud Dupree, people aren't happy about that. They weren't happy when TJ Watt was taken. They weren't happy when Shazier was taken. You're never going to make them happy. You're not going to make them happy if you take them at the beginning of their draft, end of the draft, sign a free agent or whatever. So, I mean, there's still guys that are available that are out there. Josie Jewell, we keep mentioning that name. Somebody said, why do you like him so much? He ran so slow. It was one of the YouTube comments. Thank you. Everybody was listening to us on YouTube yesterday, so thank you. Especially if you're a new listener, please subscribe. We need to get those numbers up so YouTube actually pays us since they're screwing everyone now. I'm getting long-winded here, but there's guys. Who all did we say? Josie Jewell is kind of more of a...
Josie Jewell.
He's still there. He's kind of an inside joke. Sean Dion Hamilton, who had been hurt, but man has tremendous upside if he's healthy.
Gerard Avery.
Where did
he go? No, he didn't go.
Avery. I don't remember seeing Avery's name. No, I think he's still out there. Sky Moore is still out there.
The guy who I always say wrong, to Gray Scales.
Yes, that's another guy that I hear more from you and I think Zach than myself. So there's still a small bunch of guys that can, the next 2 picks that are in the 5th round that they could end up acquiring that could fill more. Let's face it, Bostic's probably going to be the starter. Whoever they were going to take probably wasn't going to be the starter anyways. So this is going to be depth, and probably depth because they're still trying to figure out what's going to go on with Ryan Shazier.
Yep. Well, and it's that's the big I guess mystery is what's going to happen, how is things going to progress. They obviously know more than we do about what the projections for Shazier are and what the expectations are in the long term. It was, as we talked about last night, it was just absolutely chilling to watch him walk out and just, that your hair's up on the back of your neck and you pretend you weren't crying. And
I was home alone. My kid was already in bed, so I just let it go.
You didn't have to pretend. You didn't have to pretend.
I just curled up with my pillow and blanket.
It's fantastic. And we all hope, that bears fruit and that he's able to come all the way back. But we honestly, that's a bonus at this point. We just wanted to live a normal life. We've said that repeatedly. So, but that is a wild card in the situation is what is Shazier going to be able to do? How is he going to be able to come back, if ever at all? So, there's been a lot of buzz, about Dirty Red, Tyler Matakevich. Maybe that they're higher on him than the fan base is. And while we like him, we love him as a player, we love him as a special teams guy, we love him as an effort guy, I don't think any of us really see him as a viable starting option for them. But
check all the boxes. That's what Tomlin
checks
says.
all the boxes. Exactly. But maybe Bostic is more than we expect. And maybe, like I said, maybe they've got some unique takes on how they're going to run their defense this year. Because the bottom line concern here is that for a team that everybody anticipated was going to go defense in the top 4 picks, they only went defense once, and the other 3 picks were offensive. And, the biggest holes that they had, as far as most people who follow the team view them, are still there. So are they going to be able to fill them later on? Well, they don't get to pick again for quite a while. So, it's going to be the 5th round before they pick again. Luckily, they pick early in the 5th round, unless they make a move. And as much as you might hate it, I don't think they can get a 4th round pick for Landry the Goat.
No, I don't know that they can get a 7th.
I'm not sure they can get a 7th round pick for Landry the Goat.
Or for that matter, even Josh Dobbs.
I just don't see it.
Why would you? You could just wait until they're cut.
Yeah, exactly. But there's obviously, and I guess we may as well just get into it now. Let's just, I don't want to gloss over James Washington.
Oh, no. We can't gloss over that. Darius Geis
was a great
before
pick.
that.
I liked it. Yeah.
I was all on board. I was on board. I was on board with Geis. I was on board with Michelle. I'm on board with, flip the coin on Bell. I'm okay if he stays. I'm okay if he goes. I was even like that with the Bryant thing. I like I said, 3rd rounder. One thing we didn't talk about yesterday was Santonio Holmes. He got a 5th rounder for a Super Bowl MVP wide receiver. And they gave us a 3rd for a guy that was averaging 3 catches and 40 yards a game and only scored 3 touchdowns last season. He was clearly the wide receiver 3 when it came to playing playing time. And if it wasn't for Juju's suspension and an injury here or there, from like about week 7 or week 8, any game that Juju played in, he did not outsnap him. The Steelers don't run as much 3 wide receiver as you may think that they run. And when they do, sometimes they'll throw Eli Rogers out there instead of Martavis Bryant. They do a lot of double tight end sets. They use a fullback. They were using Chris Hubbard as the additional tight end. And when they have that other wide receiver on the line, guess who it is? It's Antonio Brown. So even Juju's not on the field. This is not going to be a tough guy to replace, but I think they did replace him. Now, that's going to segue to pick 28 in the second round with James Washington, the wide receiver from Oklahoma State, which reminds me of another guy from Oklahoma State that we grabbed. Do you happen to know, Mr. Trivia?
My mind is too befuddled.
Well, it was another fast, deep threat receiver that ended up leaving the team, and they ended up replacing with a guy from Oklahoma State. That guy they replaced was Mike Wallace, and they replaced him with Marcus Wheaton in the
did
third
Mike
round.
Wallace go to Oklahoma State? I did not remember that at all.
Marcus Wheaton did.
Oh, Wheaton went to Oklahoma State. Okay.
Yes. How about that? And I'm not the one to usually remember the colleges, and if I got it wrong, oh well, everyone will let me know. But I was all on the Geis train because I'm thinking, running back. But as I'm thinking about it more, and we're talking about the pick for James Conner and what his role could be, and could he be the every down guy if they needed to? Well, they don't necessarily have to do that because we've seen Fitz Toussaint in spurts, and while we don't necessarily maybe love it, he's the third guy because they still have Stephen Ridley that's going to compete for a roster spot, and I actually do like Ridley. They just don't have the guy that really – I don't know what Connor's hands are like. They didn't throw the ball to him a whole lot. We didn't get to see him run a whole lot. There's not a whole lot of body work. I don't know. I always get worried when guys get hurt and how he's going to return and things like that. So when Geis went and there were a lot of question marks on Geis, I kind of already knew. I said, wow, this guy is here right now in their lap. And when they said James Washington, I jumped, even though I was talking about Dante Pettis and some other guys yesterday, and even in mock drafts, a lot of us were talking James Washington's second round. Lo and behold, James Washington's second round. I was very excited about it, and then there were some shocking ones. But hey, James Washington, 5'11", so can play just about anywhere on the field too. He's a little raw, and I don't think he's going to be – they're not going to have to lean on him to start right away, but he does create separation. He is a deep threat type guy, somebody that can run down the field, and even if it's – he's got to be better than Sammy Coates. Let's put it that way.
Well, he's better – at certain things, he's better than Sammy and better than Martavis. He tracks the ball better. He has absurdly long arms. He's got defensive end length arms. His arms are like 35-something inches long. He plays taller than he is because of that. He's able to his reach is makes him able to reach out and attack the ball, get the ball, and it helps his separation. He tracks the ball much better than Martavis Bryant did. Going down the field. And that's from the get-go. That's from right now, even with Martavis having been in the league for 2+ years and nearly a third. James Washington comes out and is clearly ahead of him in that aspect of the game. He's going to have some things to learn. He is, not as fast as you would like. Martavis had more speed. He isn't as tall as you'd like, but like I said, those arms are going to help him excel there, and who better for him to learn from than Antonio Brown. I like the James Washington pick. I thought, he is the replacement for Martavis. Let's not even pretend he's not. He fits the role. He's able to stretch the field, which is what Martavis does. That gives Antonio Brown and Juju Smith-Schuster some takes some pressure off of them, and it gives Ben another weapon. I was kind of psyched from that point. I thought that we were going in a good way.
Don't leave Washington. Don't leave this topic yet either, because who else helped stretch that field, even if they wouldn't have grabbed Washington, is a healthy Vance McDonald. And I wanted
absolutely.
I wanted that to be Ladarius Green before, and McDonald will create mismatches too. So just throwing Washington out there and even having a little guy running around like Eli Rogers, if healthy and back on this squad, and Washington, he can still throw Darius Hayward-Bay out there and get better. Here was the thing I pulled on Martavis, 3.7 something yards per carry. I mean, he was awful with those little end round things that, the thing that was all like the alien turned into the baby giraffe. And it sounds like, we're hating on him or whatever, but it seemed like he went down awful easy, like Jesse James easy. I mean, it's just reality. Once again, not hating on the player. Love them all. But there was no yak there, no yards after the catch. So, and the same thing with the rushing. And then you have Darius Hayward-Bay who gets the ball, and he has a rushing touchdown in each of the last 2 seasons. So, I mean, that dimension is still there, or should they keep DHB on the roster?
Yeah, I don't feel like they're in too much trouble at the wide receiver position at all. I mean, I think they're stable, they're good. This fills whatever void Martavis Bryant left when they traded him. And we got some commentary about people thinking, I guess we were hating on Martavis, telling us to let it go about the drug issue. And I get it, because the thing is, it's not us harping on the drug issue. I think the guy's cleaned up his act. He looks like he's done the right things, but you still can't discount the fact that he was not nearly the productive player last year that we expected him to be. And even if he had been this year, the Steelers weren't going to be able to keep him the following year because he's going to want to get paid, and they're not going to be able to pay him. So the fact that they can get a 3rd round draft pick for him was surprising. People who thought we might, I actually had somebody tell me we should have been able to get a 2 or a 1, and I'm like, no, you're smoking what he used to smoke.
No, that was
never going to happen.
No, and it gives them draft flexibility, so they could take a guy like Washington, who now will be here 3 years longer. Should he, not Dree Archer out of the league, he'll be here longer. After Martavis, AM. But no, I don't even know that I said the word drug. I mean, it was late at night, and I get a little loopy. I think I just said off-field situation, because you know what? It's just missing that test. I mean, he is probably tested like a lab mouse at this point, because he's in a special program based on his previous, things that happened. Okay, I'll just say that, and it doesn't take much. Just look at Le'Veon Bell with the whole disaster that happened from missing a test, never failed a test. We both defended these guys out the wazoo, and that's about all the more I'm going to say with that anyways. Just from a standpoint of Darius Leonard, they had listed as outside linebacker on the draft tracker, but outside of him, and then you had Harold Landry as an edge, and maybe one more edge guy. There was like no linebackers. This Nwasu, they have listed as an edge guy, Kamiko Tarai, but like nobody that's an inside that's projected really as a defined inside linebacker or just linebacker went in round 2. So we get to round 3. We said there was the drop-off. And, Lorenzo Carter goes. There was some talk about whether he would play with his hand in the dirt or not, or blah, blah, blah. We were talking about this. Justin Reed finally goes 3rd round. Some of us didn't think he would be around in the 2nd. So you never know with these type of things. Fred Warner goes to the 49ers. Yeah. Most of the big boards we saw, he's much later. He's a day 3 guy, you thought, and there he goes. So it gets around to the 12th pick here, and the Steelers had, I think, the 15th pick, 75 that they acquired from the Raiders, and all of a sudden we hear they're moving up because the Bengals had moved back, and they had back-to-back picks, 13 and 14, both in front of the Steelers pick at 15 in the 3rd round, and it's like, well, Malik Jefferson's still out there, and I'm not really sure what they think of him, and again, it's a guy that's defined as an outside linebacker. Now, we know this is a good spot to mention this, by the way. A guy that was an outside linebacker type in college that came to the pros, Mike Tomlin's first ever draft pick in the 1st round in 2007, Lawrence Timmons, converted to inside linebacker, is currently a free agent after being released from the Miami Dolphins and may be available should the Steelers not address any of the linebacker needs. They will address, I think, at least a linebacker for the next day of the draft here, Saturday. So just keep that in mind when you're looking at the beginning of the week next week, if there isn't some chatter on the airwaves, because I don't think anyone's been ringing up Lawrence Timmons' phone anytime recently. And it all depends on what he wants for money, if he wants to come back, if he knows that, hey, this is going to be – it's going to be like a James Harrison thing. You're probably going to be a backup. You may be rotated in. There may be an opportunity if somebody gets hurt. But I wouldn't necessarily hate it. I said Vince Williams is a younger Lawrence Timmons. It's not a knock on either of them, but the pass coverage part, not there necessarily. We just know it's not Sean Spence, and we already talked about how Edmunds is probably going to change this. So the depth wouldn't be so bad. But we really thought maybe this could be a situation where Malik Jefferson, maybe the next Lawrence Timmons, because what Jefferson, we weren't trying to say Malik Jefferson was a necessarily a more what's the word I'm looking for? All these linebacker types, the Buck and blah blah blah. But he's not Shazier. Yeah. He's not Shazier. He's more like a Vince Williams. So you think they're going to get in front of the Bengals because the Bengals are looking at this guy. Well, they were looking at this guy. They took this guy because the Steelers didn't.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. The Steelers didn't take him, and I was very high on Malik Jefferson early on in the process. And the more that I got to watch him, the more that I got to read about him, the more that I got to see him, the more I felt like he wasn't going to be a good fit for this team. I don't know whether he's going to be a good pro or not. He has great measurables. He has great athleticism. He does not appear to have great heart. And great drive. I don't know that he has the toughness to come inside the same way Timmons did. It almost feels like he is more suited to being an outside linebacker in a 4-3 rather than a 3-4. So when they made that move, I had no idea what they were going to move for because we were talking about Jefferson, and it just didn't feel like that was going to make sense. And then when it happened,
did it make sense?
It still didn't make sense to me. It doesn't. It doesn't. In the moment, let me say this. In the moment, I lost my mind.
I did for an entirely different reason, and I can defend this. Somebody could go in the archives. We had a whole episode about if we backtracked, we backpedaled, we did the devil's advocate on if the Steelers could, should, whatever, take a quarterback. And remember, my comment exactly was not the first round, gavel down, closed case. Yep. I don't even really want second round. Now, I would have hated this even more had they not acquired the third round pick and not already taken James Washington, who I feel is a very good value at where they got him. In fact, the Mike Mayock Golden Corral, Golden Choice, or whatever that they called it, was the James Washington pick from tonight. I don't know if you caught that, but that was at the very tail end when Dorian O'Daniel. By the way, Dorian O'Daniel, linebacker that went also outside linebacker, the Chiefs. Still nobody that was a defined like inside linebacker for sure that fit that mold. It would have to be maybe a conversion type project for a 3-4 inside linebacker to replace Shazier. Still didn't go in round 3. So you look at everything that's here on the board. You look at stuff that goes after. Now the Bengals took Sam Hubbard, one of our Buckeye guys, and Malik Jefferson. And then I looked down at who else went after this. Okay, the Ravens took another tight end. Would you have taken Mark Andrews? I know there's people that were really on the tight end bus for whatever reason. You got McDonald, you got Jesse James, and beyond that, okay, Grimble, he's the third guy. He barely gets on the field. Don't need anybody else there. It's driving me insane. And then, of course, the Steelers get the pick again, and we'll get down to that pick. So this pick, who is the mystery pick? It is now Mason Goat Rudolph. He gets to learn from the GOAT Ben Roethlisberger how to become an NFL starter. But before that, he gets to learn from the GOAT of backup quarterbacks, Landry Goat Jones. And he will become a GOAT himself. I do believe this is going to make a lot of Yinzers upset. I think it's going to be at the detriment of Josh Dobbs because I don't think you make this move. You don't make this move if you have faith in either one of those guys. Now, Landry Jones has been in the league. I think this is going to be his 7th year, so he's not a spring chicken. He's not young, and he's not the future. You've seen enough of him. But Josh Dobbs, you have not really developed yet, and they're not going to roster 4 quarterbacks, and I don't like the process. I don't like the prospect of thinking if Rudolph's too raw and he's Paxton Lynch or somebody like this, and Ben goes down, I don't like the idea that you could have had Landry Jones, who's at least capable of maybe competing in a game, and at least they could win with Landry Jones, which they struggled to do with other backups in the past, Michael Vick. I don't know if I like Mason Rudolph or Josh Dobbs in that situation, so this is going to be very interesting. But Mason Rudolph, like they said, they had a lot of interest in him. I'm just like, I don't know if that's a smokescreen. Got James Washington. I'm like, maybe that's the reason why they were so heavily involved in the Oklahoma State Pro Day and all this other stuff. And they're really checking out. There was photos like they were fawning over Mason Rudolph, and I'm like, I don't know, man. Please don't take this. Please don't make him like the 5th or 6th quarterback that goes in the first round. Nobody else picked a quarterback up until this point, which makes me believe when people were already starting to grade this guy, maybe 2nd round, nobody else took him. No other teams really had a need for a quarterback. Maybe this isn't such of a bad value. I just don't get the jumping in front that they really think the Bengals may replace A.J. McCarron. Something must have spooked them to give the Seahawks the 7th round pick to move up a few spots.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. We talked about this even last night. Mason Rudolph is Landry Jones. Maybe Landry Jones 2.0. Yeah. Maybe a slight improvement on Landry Jones.
Exactly.
But maybe. And that's a slight improvement on Landry Jones. I think a lot of Yinzers, a lot of Steelers fans who aren't really Yinzers, but definitely the Landry haters are lauding this pick. They love this pick because they think it signals the end of Landry Jones. But there is absolutely no conscionable way the Steelers go into next season with a 2-year backup and a rookie backup and nobody else. And you're right, they're not carrying 4 quarterbacks. So Landry's probably not going anywhere this year. The thing that frustrates me is it makes the Dobbs pick more of a wasted pick than it already was. We said that last year. It was a wasted pick.
Hold on. But they have to make that pick to know it's a wasted pick. And I think Dobbs fits the let me put it this way. Dobbs, I would much rather take a shot in the dark with a 4th extra. I think they had an extra, the comp pick or whatever. They had an extra pick in the 4th round, didn't they? Or was that only a 1? But it was a 4th round pick. I mean, I'm not burned up over it. I'm okay with that. You don't know unless you try, and they got to see, and then, well, you know what? I'm not so crazy about this. Now, don't forget, new offensive coordinator, even though he was the quarterback's coach, new quarterback's coach, too. I think that may have some influence on this. Maybe Josh Dobbs isn't their guy. We know Landry's not going to be their guy, but you know what? If he's the backup for another year or two, as much as I joke and kid and whatever, again, realistic here. He's not the answer. He's not the. We have to repeat that again. I don't think so. He's not Ben. He's not going to be Ben, and he's not Ben's replacement.
Yeah, and maybe I don't know. I don't know that Mason Rudolph is either, but he's more of a maybe than Josh Dobbs ever was going to be. He's more of a maybe than Landry Jones was ever going to be, as far as could he take over down the road. I don't know. My problem with the pick initially is I just don't think so. My opinion on Mason Rudolph is while he has great deep ball accuracy and he shows some level of ability, his arm is suspect. He throws a lot of lame ducks up. He floats the ball. I think he's going to be tortured against NFL defenses, and he's going to throw a lot of interceptions. That's just my take. So we'll have to wait and see. I don't like the pick, but the more that I look at what's available at the time that they picked him, the more it becomes less annoying that they picked him. It's still going to bother me, but there's nothing else there.
No, there's literally, Derek Nandy goes right before that. Jerome Baker, we were like anti that. We were, he just doesn't, he's not a good fit for this team. Were they going to, if Justin Reed would have fell there, would they take it again? It's not even though it could have, would have, should have, they weren't there. Were you going to take Sam Hubbard?
They weren't there.
We just talked about Jefferson. We just I mentioned some of these names already went. Orlando Brown. I don't know. You know what I mean? They don't need another safety. We don't need Mark Andrews, the tight end. Arden Key. Who? It's funny. It's like they were just talking about like problems with certain players and off field and question marks, and Arden Key still being out there, and it's like, either the Raiders or Cowboys are on the clock. It's the Raiders. You know, who else takes these type of players and it immediately goes? It's like they had mental telepathy, or they were, well, I don't know, they were like 80 picks behind, so they may have been tipped off and knew that anyways. But, I mean, one of these guys, too, and you get down to the kid from Western Michigan who's the last pick, the offensive tackle, whose name we won't be able to pronounce, so we'll call him Chuks. Chukwuma Okorafor. We don't have
Okorafor.
Sorry, we don't have the pronunciation key. See, this is why I set that up. That was great, by the way. Nate Burleson coming on for the Lions pick. I don't know if that was Mayock or Isaac. He goes, "This is a setup. This is the setup." He was. There's all these like mid-round safeties to various more. I mean, they got their safety already. There's none of these corners are necessarily exciting. So you get this mountain of a man that's 6'6", 320. I wanted to say that, you know, maybe Big Al just saw his shadow, or you know, saw his had to double take and thought maybe he looked in the mirror, because Big Al is like that same size, as that same profile. And this guy, he's a swing tackle. He could play both sides. And what else do you need there? Because they lost Chris Hubbard. And Chris Hubbard got paid a lot of money. A lot of speculation as to Marcus Gilbert, and you know, is he going to be healthy? How much longer is he going to play? You always going to have that. You got to have your backup plan in place here, and maybe Gerald Hawkins isn't that guy. I wasn't terribly excited about him, and we knew he was raw coming out of college, and they put him on IR, kind of, you know, the red shirt him. They did like they do sometimes, and so you got Chuks here now, and he's going to compete to be one of those guys next in line, maybe even work his way up. This is, again, the middle rounds. Some of these offensive linemen, you see it all over. There's tons of guards and offensive tackles and centers and stuff that went here in the third round. So I'm not bothered by this whatsoever. I mean, obviously, you know, these aren't the sexy picks. This one wasn't on my radar at all, but he's a two-time All-MAC. You know, okay, it's not one of the power whatever conference, you know, Big Ten, ACC, SEC, or whatever, but this guy has Mike Munchak as his offensive line coach.
Exactly. I mean, that's the thing that makes you comfortable with this pick. This is an offensive lineman with tremendous upside, tremendous potential. He's huge. He's very well proportioned. He carries his weight well. He's not sloppy like Orlando. What's his face?
Brown.
You know, Orlando Brown. You know, he's got like the right building blocks for somebody like Mike Munchak to turn this guy into something. If anybody can do it, Mike Munchak can do it. So, you know, that gives me a lot. I mean, I don't want to say that I was ecstatic with the pick, but I don't hate this pick at all. And they had to pull in somebody to replace Hubbard. So this, you know, it makes sense. And they usually do draft an offensive lineman at some point in the draft. You know, in the real problem, of course, is, and everybody's saying the same thing, inside linebacker. But if they're just not there, they're just not there. Now, when Zach and I were first previewing this, and we were talking about potential picks for every round, you know, we didn't know they were going to trade Martavis, obviously. But the problem is that Josie Jewell, who we've talked about, and who ran a much better 40 at his pro day, if they were going to take him, this is where they had to take him, because he won't make it through the fourth round. That's my view, and I think Zach would agree with that. So, you know, the question is, would that, even though it might have been a stretch, is that more of a better choice? I don't know. I don't know. This guy's a project. Jewell is probably a project. It's kind of, you know, does this guy have more upside? Tackles are much harder to find when they're quality tackles. So maybe he does have a better upside. I can't hate this pick. It's the Rudolph pick that may haunt me, and I hope that someday I come back and go, I eat my words. Mason Rudolph is our future. I love him. I worship at his feet. I just don't believe that will happen.
Here's the thing, and I was pulling up Josie Jewell just to see what NFL.com said. I thought I agreed with like what you said, and I've seen different big boards and things. And you try and Lance Zierlein here, NFL analyst, has him as a projected 5th or 6th rounder. And what did I just get done saying? And I swear I didn't look at this prior either, just to make myself sound smarter or anything like that. And they have Jewell, obviously, they have him listed NFL backup, special teams potential. That's the Tyler Matakevich profile, and you need guys like Tyler Matakevich. There's on your roster. There's nothing wrong with that, and if it helps you get through. Because sometimes there's injuries in the NFL. Not everyone plays 16 games, ever. You don't always have the same roster from week to week, and God forbid somebody goes on injured reserve. And that's where I'm going to go back on the Mason Rudolph pick. Now, I remember we were talking about first round, and I remember saying specifically no to Lamar Jackson. Now, if it was like one of the other 4 guys, I didn't think there was a chance Mayfield would be around, Darnold, obviously, but I didn't know where Rosen or where Allen might be. And I said, you may have to give that some thought. And then I was thinking, well, Rudolph, and Mayock was saying there might be 6 guys with a first round grade. And I'm like, man, I really feel like that's a reach for the 2 guys that were kind of almost tied as 5. You know what I mean? He wanted to give a top 5. He gave a top 6 this year as far as the quarterback grades are concerned. So when I found out it was like the Rudolph thing, I was thinking Rudolph slipped through. I wonder if he's going to go like early in the second round, like we saw like Derek Carr go or a Jimmy Garoppolo. Right. I was kind of thinking, man, you know what? Maybe the Patriots are going to sneak in here and make everyone look like a bunch of morons like they tend to do. And then the second round goes through, and then I'm thinking to myself, if the Steelers end up doing this, it was still in the back of my mind. Because I'm like, there's no way. They didn't look at like a Kyle Lauletta. They didn't look at like Mike White or any of these other guys that are out the what's his name? Falk, the other guy. I'm okay with it. And here's why. This is the same thing. I remember when everyone was pretty PO'd at the same type of move, not only last year with Dobbs, and I cut you off on your thing about saying that is like a pointless draft pick. It's about improving your every position, and the Steelers don't have an awful lot of needs. Even John Bostic fills the potential. It's not like they don't have anybody capable of playing right there now. If somebody gets injured, they're going to be scratching their behinds, obviously. But overall, it's like Landry Jones. Oh, that's a wasted pick. People still talk about that. But if you didn't have Landry Jones, you probably don't make the playoffs 1 or 2 of these seasons when Ben gets hurt. He was capable of at least bearing the load a little bit and helping the team make it through that rough patch and actually won a game or 2. So if that third round pick that you got or fourth round, that day 2 or day 3 pick, whatever position it is, helps you win a football game, because wins are very precious in the NFL and things are very volatile. Coaches get fired unless you're Marvin Lewis or Hugh Jackson or Jeff Fisher in most cases. Then, you know what I mean? There's only 16 games. I think that makes the pick worth it.
Yeah, I just am in wait and see mode, and the reason is because if Ben plays 3 years, and that's what he said, but that doesn't mean he will. And as we saw with Peyton Manning, when you start to lose it, you lose it. So Ben may want to play, and his body may not at some point. So let's say, but if we say Ben plays 3 more years, then that really limits their exposure here, because this is a guy that they got in the 3rd round. They're going to have to go in heavily in that last year to make a determination on the future of whether they're going to, this is their guy. So it limits, what he can do for you. His productivity is limited to probably, at best case, probably 2 years from now, worst case 3. And my issue with that is I don't see how that helps them win games right now or next year or the year after, because remember how much Landry Jones struggled in this offense, even though it was Todd Haley's offense at the time, initially. Okay,
what are you talking about? It's preseason.
Oh, come
football,
on,
man, that don't count.
He struggled, and that's how he became so hated.
I know, no joke, wanted him gone after that first year. Like, no lie. I think it was. Yeah. I'm trying to see if it was Noah that said. that 2 of the picks were win now and 2 of the picks were win later. I think that was a very good way of looking at it. So
it really is, yeah. And I feel like that's my issue with a third round pick. Third round, especially when they don't have a fourth rounder, these guys should be helping them now. That's just my view. I hope Mason Rudolph is a better player than I think he is. I hope that he saves us from the Kent Graham years that are going to follow Ben leaving. I hope that's what happens. I just don't see it. But again, the problem is, even with my distaste, even with my dislike, even with the fact that we already got one of those comment that I made on Twitter, we don't need another Landry Jones. We already got one of them. Even with all that.
And I
don't
it.
see who else they could take. I just, I get it. It's too much value at the spot they're at, even if I don't like it. Where else? And there's nobody else there.
That is, you nailed it, because the rest of their board, they're looking at the linebackers and they're saying exactly what we opened the show with. We have 2 fifth-round picks. These guys aren't valued at a 3, and we have X amount of them here and Y amount of them there, and this is where we're picking. And one of these men, we like enough of them, we're not going to make them a third-round pick. And you're looking at, and you got all the coaches and everybody's scouts and everyone else's input and everything that goes into this process. So they're not just going into this blindly. They already went in knowing that, like, hey, you know what? This Rudolph kid, yeah, what do you think of him? Yeah, wow. Well, we need this. And we kind of need this. Now they're where they're at, and they look at other situations. They're aware of what's going on around the league. I think somebody tonight actually said something about Bill Belichick knowing more about all the other teams' draft boards as well and what their needs are and who they may pick. That's definitely part of this process as well.
Absolutely.
That's why they jumped up the way they did. They had a gut feeling that the Bengals wanted to put somebody behind Dalton after losing A.J. McCarron, and they weren't willing to risk, because here's the worst case scenario here. They don't make that move. The Bengals have 2 back-to-back picks. It's like they're playing in the fantasy league when you get the snake back around. And they take Mason Rudolph, and they could get out of the Andy Dalton thing right now. And Andy Dalton's stinking up the joint, and this Rudolph kid looks pretty good in camp. And then all of a sudden, in a year or two, they're winning the AFC North because you allowed them to take Mason Rudolph. So even in that regard, if this kid sits on the bench and they've got 4 years to figure it out, and you know what? They'll figure it out before those 4 years, I have a feeling. They could do the same thing next year, and like they just did with Dobbs. They pick Dobbs and then pick Rudolph. They might be another guy next year that they think is the heir apparent, and they don't have any big needs, and it's the best player available in that spot. So as much as anyone hates it, I'm seeing the light on this. Ben can't play forever. Hopefully it's not the Kent Graham years. I'll at least take Tommy Maddox years, slap a number 8 on this kid. I'll buy his jersey.
Okay. I'm not there yet. But okay.
Rudy Gunn.
No, okay. Doesn't work for me. I just I just don't know. As I said, I get it. I get the reasoning behind it. I just question, and this is it'll all get better for me if we get to the 5th round and some of the guys that maybe might have come off, even if it was a little early in the 4th for them. But if there's some inside linebackers there that have a chance to be at least in the conversation, then this pick becomes much more palatable to me.
A+ draft if that happens. A+.
I'm not going there. A+
with honors.
Right now, it's a B- draft for me, and that's because I will give the Edmunds pick an A-. I give the Washington pick an A.
Oh yeah, definitely,
easily, and potentially an A+. But I don't do. I'm not even going to. I'm not incomplete on Mason Rudolph, and I'm giving like a B, Maybe a B plus to the Okorafor Chucky, to Chucky's pick. Look, Chuks. Hey, I don't really want to call him Chucky because I've been talking about Chucky all night.
No,
I've been trolling the Raiders all night, saying that Chucky has got his poopy pants on because he's been pooping his pants all night long with his picks. The Raiders are just a mess.
Hey, you think they keep trading back because he doesn't know what the heck he's doing?
It wouldn't surprise me because, look, again, we talked about surprising picks. There's very little more surprising to me than the Ravens taking another tight end in the same draft after just a couple years ago taking a tight end in the draft with Max Williams. But okay, whatever. It still isn't quite as odd as the Raiders draft. There's pundits out there that like the Raiders draft a whole heck of a lot better than I do. I think it's a hot mess. I think Chucky's wearing his Depends and just walking around making a mess. So that's fine. I don't, what do I care?
I don't know. Has Amari Cooper landed a big deal yet? I can't really recall. I
don't think so. I think he's still on his rookie deal.
Yeah, it's going to be kind of funny when they lose him and Martavis Bryant. Just have nobody, and then Derek Carr has even less guys to throw to. But hey, one more thing about Mason Rudolph, just to not break the record some more. 6'5", 235. Just saying.
I thought he was 6'4".
NFL
6'4" and 3/4.
You round that up. You round that up, man.
No, I don't round up.
Man, you're just giving money to the IRS then.
I don't round up. I go exactly where it is. 6 3/4. I like his size. That's what disturbs me about that. I think his arm is a little suspect. Somebody that big should have a strong arm, and I don't think he does.
Yeah, PFF, I think it put out something. It was deep passing, and thank you, Twitter, for doing that. I had it up on my screen, and they took it off.
Cycled away from it.
Bunch of punks. I shouldn't even really. They're voodoo witchcraft magic. They're deep passing amongst draft-eligible quarterbacks. They had him, let's see, he threw for more yards and more touchdowns than Mayfield Darnell did, and two other guys that I won't even bother mentioning. They gave him a 91.9 grade. His position rank was 6. His overall rank 25. So, I mean, he's not necessarily a bum. You know what I mean? When Dobbs came off the board last year, the quarterback class was nowhere near as strong as what it is this season. So there's some optimism there. I'm okay with it because not all of these picks are always going to be home runs. And then when you're getting positions in the later rounds, just because that's the way things fall, you want skill position here, you want offensive linemen here, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, there's a reason why kickers and punters don't fly off the board at this point, and people get made fun of, especially when it blows up in your face like it did the Buccaneers a couple seasons ago. You know what I mean? This is just the way some of this works. So there may be a guy in the 5th round, and I don't want to belabor this any longer because we've almost gone an hour, which if you're still listening to this, thank you very much. We appreciate you. So
we love you. We love you.
With that, I think it's time to jump off the day 2 train. We're going to jump on the day 3 train. We'll probably just based on everything that's going on, being people with busy lives, and the draft being during the day. Saturday, we'll probably roll back to you maybe Sunday-ish, Monday-ish, or something else, and give you an overview of not only day 3, but the entire Steelers draft, and then Brian can put his rubber stamp seal of approval on everything being a nice, neat package with a pretty little bow on it.
Sure, absolutely. And before we jump off, just a last quick shout-out. Tomorrow is the last day of our March of Dimes contest. So if you want to make a donation, we've had some really nice folks make some donations. So, but there's still plenty of opportunity. A $10, a $5, a $15, $25 donation would give you a pretty decent chance at winning this Troy Polamalu autographed jersey. So, check the site out, check out Emily's story, and all you got to do is make a donation to the March of Dimes. You'll feel better about yourself, and you could maybe win a nice prize. So tomorrow is the last day. If you've been putting it off, get it in tomorrow.
That means if you're listening to this on Sunday or Monday, you're too late. So you got to get it in
you're
Saturday.
Hosed.
Yeah, I got to get
Saturday
it in.
is the last day.
So we're saying tomorrow, but it's almost midnight as we're still recording. So
good point.
Yep.
Might be today.
Yeah, might be today. Check your calendar. I know a guy that cannot check a calendar on his computer, always asks someone else in the room what the date is, and it's just like, oh, I never knew that was there the other day. Can you believe that?
No. Well, yes, because I've seen people on computers that frighten me.
Yes.
So, yes,
you know I have
that.
too. You know I have too. So
yes,
we will frighten no one any longer. I think it's time for everyone to get some rest, and we're going to rest up and look forward to seeing what else the Steelers do on day 3. Till next time, my name is Joseph. His name is Bryant. Be safe, be good. We'll catch you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.